June 6, 1944. 7:45 hours. Sword Beach, Normandy, France. Private James Mitchell, age 22, crouched in crater that had been somebody's garden wall 5 minutes earlier, hands shaking. Not from fear, though. There was plenty of that. But from recoil that had just run through his body, like electric shock, traveled up both arms through shoulders into spine, left him wondering if something had broken or dislocated, though nothing had, at least not yet. That would come later with repeated firing. But for now, he was intact, and staring at German Pillbox, 70 yards distant, that should have been impregnable, 2 feet of reinforced concrete, with MG-42 machine gun that had already killed 3 men from his section, but now had hole punched, clean through it, hole you could see daylight through, hole that hadn't existed 10 seconds earlier before he'd fired weapon. Everyone called Dustbin gun, or stovepipe, or that bloody spring-loaded monstrosity, officially designated Projector Infantry Anti-Tank, Mark I PIAT, for short, ugliest, most brutal, most unexpectedly effective thing British ordnance had ever produced. The pillbox was silent. Now smoke drifting from hole that shouldn't exist. Mitchell lowered the PIAT, its 32 pounds feeling like 60. After the shot, his shoulder already bruising, where butt plate had hammered into him. Despite padding, despite bracing, despite everything, training instructors had taught about proper positioning, because there was no proper position for absorbing that much spring-driven recoil. There was only trying not to break something, and hoping you could fire again if needed. Around him, Sword Beach was chaos, but that pillbox was silent, and his section could advance, because Crude, ugly weapon had done exactly what elegant weapons couldn't do, which was punch through concrete that was supposed to be impenetrable. The desperate design. Britain in 1941 faced problem that seemed unsolvable. German tanks were superior. British anti-tank weapons were inadequate. Boy's anti-tank rifle couldn't penetrate German armor anymore. 2-pounder anti-tank gun was too heavy for infantry to move quickly, leaving infantry helpless against German armor breakthrough. The military establishment wanted proper anti-tank gun, something elegant, mechanical, sophisticated, but Britain didn't have time, resources, or industrial capacity for sophisticated. Major Millis Jeffers of Military Defense Ministry Experimental Station knew what was needed, even if nobody wanted to hear it. They needed weapon infantry, could carry, could operate without extensive training, could produce by thousands using materials. Britain actually had not materials. Britain wished it had. His solution was ungainly, brutal, and violated every principle of elegant weapons design. He proposed spring-loaded spigot mortar-firing hollow charge bomb system, so crude, so primitive, that senior officers laughed when shown prototypes. But Jeffers understood something about warfare that peacetime officers often missed. Wars weren't won by weapons that impressed inspection boards, but by weapons that worked in mud, cold blood, exhaustion, terror conditions, where elegant mechanisms jammed and sophisticated systems failed. The PA design reflected this philosophy ruthlessly. Spring mechanism, instead of propellant charge, meant no complex firing system. Hollow charge warhead meant no need for velocity to penetrate armor. Spigot mortar meant weapon could be shorter, lighter than conventional launcher. Everything about it was compromise, accepting crude to achieve reliable, accepting ugly to achieve effective. The mathematics were compelling. Boy's anti-tank rifle required skilled marksman. PIA could be fired by any soldier. Hollow charge warhead would penetrate armor, regardless of impact. Boy's rifle weighed 16 pounds and couldn't stop Panzer. PIA weighed 32 pounds and could destroy anything. Germany fielded. The calculation was brutal but clear. Double the weight, double the misery, infinitely more effective. Production began late 1942. First deliveries reached combat units. Mid-1943, initial reception was exactly what Jeffers expected. Soldiers hated it. Officers doubted it. Training instructors struggled teaching weapon that seemed designed to injure users, but nobody could argue with results when hollow charge bombs punched through armor that stopped everything else. Training with the monster. Mitchell had first encountered PAT in training camp, Outside Dover, January 1944. The training sergeant had shown them weapon lying on ground like dead animal, something industrial that had escaped factory floor. Right then, lads, this is PIAT bit of kit that'll stop Jerry tanks, if you can manage to fire it without killing yourselves. First weighs 32 pounds, fires 3-pound bomb, effective against any armor. Germany's got now. Who wants first go? Nobody volunteered. Mitchell was voluntold, as youngest member of section. The cocking mechanism was first, horror lay weapon on ground place. Both feet on base grip, cocking handle with both hands, pull upward with every ounce of strength. 120 pounds of spring tension fighting you every inch. Mitchell pulled cocking handle back his arms, shaking his vision, narrowing from effort, pulled until mechanism clicked, locked. Sergeant showed him how to load, bomb, how to aim, how to brace. No amount of bracing is enough, lad, that's just truth of it. Then told him to fire a tank silhouette, 100 yards distant. Mitchell aimed, squeezed trigger, spigot shot. Forward spring released bomb flew toward target. Recoil hit him like being kicked by horse, struck his shoulder, knocked him backward, made his teeth click together, made his vision swim, but downrange the hollow charge bomb had struck tank. Silhouette punched through steel plate, left hole you could put fist through. The sergeant nodded. There you have it. Weapon that hurts you to hurt Jerry more. Question is, can you pull that cocking handle under fire? Can you absorb that recoil when you're already exhausted? Because that's when you'll need this. Welcome to infantry weapons design. It's not about comfort. Sicily and Normandy. The PIAT entered combat July 1943. Sicily campaign. Lance Corporal Davies from Welsh Regiment scored first confirmed kill. German Mark IV tank advancing through Olive Grove. Davies managed to cock PIAT load bomb and fire from 60 yards. Hollow charge bomb struck turret and penetrated. Everyone inside died instantly. Davies wrote in after action report, the cocking under fire is nearly impossible. Your hands are shaking and you're trying to pull back spring. That feels designed to test Samson. But you do it because alternative is tank kills you. The recoil is severe. Thought I'd broken my collarbone, but the bomb works. Penetrated armor. Put hole in German tank, killed crew immediately. German response to PIAT was instructive, mixture of respect and contempt. Captured German intelligence reports. Analyzed weapon, noted its weaknesses and strengths. British Projector Infantry Anti-Tank is crude device. One report stated primitive spring mechanism. However, hollow charge warhead is highly effective against all current German armor. Recommendation is avoid close-range infantry engagement. June 6, 1944. Mitchell fired his PIAT for first time on Sword Beach. Circumstances were chaos of largest amphibious invasion in history. Mitchell's section targeting concrete pillboxes that naval bombardment had failed to neutralize. The pillbox Mitchell targeted housed MG-42 and had excellent fields of fire. German engineering had made it nearly impregnable, nearly but not quite. Mitchell's shoulder absorbed recoil that felt like railway sleeper swung into him. His vision swam, but his eyes stayed on target, stayed on pillbox that now had hole, where there should have been solid concrete hole. That smoke drifted from hole. That meant machine gun was silent. Meant his section could advance. Meant Crude, ugly PIAT had done exactly what it was designed to do. Statistics from Normandy documented effectiveness. British and Canadian units equipped with PIATs reported numerous tank kills. One Canadian report noted PIATs destroyed more German armor in first week of Normandy operations than any other infantry anti-tank weapon. This despite weapons reputation, despite soldiers' complaints, despite every disadvantage. The German perspective. Captured German documents revealed how enemy perceived PIAT. Oberst Heinrich Weber, German tank commander, wrote in interrogation report, "We knew British had new anti-tank weapon. Our intelligence described it as crude, heavy, difficult to use. We assumed it would be ineffective. Then one of my Panther tanks was struck by something that penetrated side armor, killed crew instantly. We examined weapon with confusion. How does this work? It's spring-loaded like child's toy, but it destroyed 50-ton tank." German engineers tested. Captured PIAs. Documented performance, noted hollow charge warhead was brilliantly designed penetration capability. Exceeded any infantry anti-tank weapon in German inventory spigot mortar design, while Crude was actually ingenious. Spring mechanism was immune to battlefield conditions that disabled more sophisticated weapons. One German report concluded British PIAT represents interesting case where crudeness of construction actually contributes to battlefield reliability. Sophisticated German weapons require maintenance, cleaning, careful handling, can be dropped in mud, left in rain, handled roughly, and still function. This is advantage we had not anticipated. Living with brutality. Mitchell carried his PIAT through Normandy campaign 32 pounds that never got lighter, never got easier, never stopped punishing him. His section rotated PIAT duty because nobody could carry it continuously. Weapon was that demanding, but rotation meant everyone learned, everyone developed bruised shoulder, developed particular kind of exhausted resentment that came from relying on weapon you hated. The physical toll accumulated. Shoulder bruising became chronic. Medical officer examined Mitchell, noted tissue damage, told him to rest. Laughed when Mitchell explained that wasn't possible. There's no gentle way to fire this thing, doctor said. It's designed wrong ergonomically, but designed right. Tactically trade-off is your body absorbs punishment, so German tanks absorb worse. Mitchell found himself defending PIAT to soldiers from other units who mocked its appearance. Yes, it's ugly, he'd say. Yes, it kicks like mule. Yes, cocking it is torture, but it works. It penetrates armor. It kills tanks. It's kept me alive. So mock it if you want, but I'll keep carrying it, because crude and effective beats elegant and useless. Post-war assessment. British Army analysis after war showed PIAT's performance. Surprised analysts. Statistics told story between 1943 and 45 British forces using PIATs destroyed several thousand German armored vehicles, penetrated fortifications, performed functions that should have required heavier weapons. Kill rate was higher than expected. Reliability was exceptional. Soldier acceptance, despite initial resistance, became generally positive. Comparison with other nations' weapons revealed PIAT's unexpected superiority. American bazooka was lighter, easier to use, but had lower penetration and reliability problems. Soviet anti-tank rifles couldn't penetrate heavy armor. German Panzerfaust was effective, but disposable PIAT combined reusability, reliability, and penetration power in package that proved more tactically valuable than alternatives. Economic analysis was telling PIAT cost £10 to manufacture, compared to £50 for anti-tank gun. Britain produced 115,000 PIATs at fraction of cost. Crude design was strategic advantage, allowing Britain to equip infantry despite industrial limitations. German post-war assessment ranked PIAT among most dangerous infantry weapons, noting crude appearance had led Germans to underestimate its capabilities. British weapon looked improvised. One report noted our soldiers assumed it would be ineffective. This assumption cost us numerous tanks. Recommendation for future is never judge weapons' effectiveness by appearance. British demonstrated crude functional weapon defeats sophisticated dysfunctional weapon. The unglamorous truth. Mitchell survived war, returned to Britain with discharge papers and medical notation about chronic shoulder damage from repeated exposure to excessive recoil. His shoulder would ache in cold weather for rest of his life. Reminder of weapon that had kept him alive. Years later, interviewed for Military History Project, Mitchell was asked whether weapon deserved reputation as crude but effective. His answer captured something essential. The PIAT said wasn't what anyone wanted, wasn't what peacetime generals would have designed, wasn't elegant or sophisticated, but Britain didn't have time for elegant. We needed effective. We needed weapon that worked with materials we had somehow. They created exactly that, created weapon that looked like joke, performed like precision instrument, saved thousands of lives including mine, so mock it if you want. But remember, crude, ugly weapon destroyed German tanks that sophisticated weapons couldn't touch, and in war that's only measurement that matters. The PIAT remained in British service until 1950s, eventually replaced by more modern weapons, but fundamental principle remained: weapons didn't need to be beautiful or comfortable. They needed to work. They needed to be reliable. They needed to function under actual combat conditions where sophisticated mechanisms failed and crude, simple systems kept working. The legacy was captured in phrase common among British veterans. Not pretty, but it works. They'd say not comfortable but reliable. Not what we wanted, but what we needed. And in those words was essence of British military pragmatism approach that valued function over form effectiveness, over elegance, crude reliability, over sophisticated failure. The PIAT embodied all of this in 32 pounds of spring-loaded brutality that nobody wanted, everybody used, and somehow worked exactly as designed when everything else failed. That was enough.